You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by Yuya.
Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadow of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie wait in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should never aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light, as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment, female is your transformation, child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness, so it may enlighten you. Man, go bring your light boldly into the darkness, so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands. And if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create sane spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. The problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? What are we doing? It's a good day for an exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build.
Greetings, peace everyone. Welcome back to Chief Speaks. I'm Kim, one of your co-hosts, and as usual, since our format has changed, we'll have we're not going to have our insight from Chief This Strong. We are going to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to be joined by two more co-hosts, Brother Charles Evans and Brother Zach Latimer. So they are students from the Anu Spiritual Training, and we get to hear some of their insight on some of the concepts and things Chief has gone over for the past month. And of course, we'll share some things. And if you would like to call in and share your own experiences or your own testimony, you can call in on the Enlightenment and Transformation side at 347-945-7680. Or you can call in on the high frequency side, and that's 424-222-5250. And of course, you just press 1 and we'll pick you up. Okay. So, but as usual, of course, before we get started, I do want to make some announcements, and that's for those of you who may just be tuning in, or if you just simply forgot. So, let me let you all know how you can get in touch with some of the things we offer here at Anu Nation. The first thing you want to do is go to anunation.org. This is our hub website for everything. So there you can sign up for the newsletter so that you can kind of be kept abreast of all the current things going on with Anu Nation. And you'll also see links to all of our other sites. We have SaduluHouse.com, which is the learning ministry of Anu Nation. And this is where you would sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course, the free course as well, the Orisha training. You'll also find our monthly webinars listed there. And for February, we'll be doing a webinar on spiritual cleansing. And so if you'd like to go ahead and sign up for that, you can do so. Just go to saduluhouse.com/events and you can go ahead and register. And you can register for any of the other monthly webinars we have there. They're already listed, so you just click on the one that you have interest in and you can go ahead and sign up for that. Again, the free Orisha class, or the prerequisite for the Anu Spiritual Training, is located there as well, so you can register for that. The Media Center is where you'll find all of the Enlightenment and Transformation shows. And again, for those of you that are kind of new to the training courses, if you're having trouble finding some of the answers, you do have to go back and listen to some of those old shows. The book is not the only resource for the class. So make sure you kind of get familiar with some of the old shows. We have Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursday, and Foundational Friday. So there are over 400 shows there to choose from, and there are a lot of lessons in all of them, lessons and rituals. So if you're looking for rituals for certain things, you can find a lot of them there too. Chief left tons and tons of information. So, and that's one of the reasons why the format's changing a little bit. Chief spent a lot of time on Orisha information and some other things, and so now we're kind of shifting to some other things. And as always, getting better, always trying to improve on what we've already done. So make sure you go to enlightenmentandtransformation.com to find all of those old shows. And you'll also probably, if you click on one of those shows there, it'll probably link you to our YouTube channel, which is Enlightenment and Transformation TV. So feel free to subscribe, like, and share any of those videos if you'd like. The Self-Help Center is where you'll find the Osiris Life monthly services. This is where you can go to schedule monthly readings if you need, like I said, more help than usual. If you need something like on a regular basis, you can have rituals done on your behalf and just one-on-one coaching with Chief Yuya. You would go to osirislife.com, and there are 3 different packages that you can choose from. So you'll just, read what the components are of each and choose the one that you like. We also have alphaomegastore.com. This is our online botanica. So if you've ever gotten any rituals from the shows or from Chief, or if you just need different spiritual supplies, you can go there to find what you need there. We also have our books, DVDs. Everything that we sell is on alphaomegastore.com. So there you have it. I'm going to take a quick break and play a couple of commercials and see if our co-hosts are on the line, and then we'll be back with Chief Speaks. Your higher self is one of the most potent energies that there is. We often want to work with gods and angels and other spirits instead, but our higher self is what's needed to connect to those energies. Gods, angels, and Orisha, for example, are tools that we use to direct the actions of our higher self. Not taking care of it can cause us to misuse and misinterpret the messages of those tools. Proper cleansing and refreshing of the higher self is a way to stay connected to its guidance so you can be in alignment with your personal destiny. A regular head cleanse is one way to honor your higher self. For this cleanse, you will need 1 quart of goat's milk, 1 quart of almond milk, 1 quart of coconut milk, 1 quart of river water, and a small piece of black soap. Mix all the ingredients in a large container and allow the black soap to liquefy. Leave this mixture in moonlight overnight. Wash your head the next sunrise and cover your head with a white cloth for the rest of the day. To learn more about spiritual cleansing, go to saduluhouse.com/events to register for the online live webinar February 8th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Greetings, peace, 303 and 703. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Greetings.
Greetings. I just realized my mic was muted. Sorry. Got a lot going on here. How are you all this dawning? This is Brother Charles and Zach, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, good. How are you this dawning?
I'm doing well. I'm excited and I'm happy to be here.
Great. Sounds great.
I am doing wonderfully well. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. That's great. So this strong, we're doing things a little bit different. Chief won't be giving the insight, and so I wanted to invite you all on so that our listeners could hear or get some testimony from some of the students from the Yanu spiritual training, so that they can know that the things that Chief gives us to do, they actually do work, and just to get another man's perspective on some things. So if you guys would like to share any stories or any of your testimonies real quick, that'd be cool. And then we can kind of get into the conversation a little bit deeper.
Okay. Well, this is Brother Charles. I'll start first. So, and just in terms of like the testimony of it, I think that this journey for me from the first time I heard a podcast is probably one big testimony, because, you know, I think that the core of all of this is really about, you know, I just like, you know, she said self-actualization, and it's about doing the self-work. And one of the things that, you know, I think that this entire process has really challenged me to do personally is to do self-work and really self-analysis of who you are and why you are and what you're doing. And for me, you know, I found that the ritual work that I've done has been necessary and vital in really learning myself and really understanding myself better. And, you know, I remember the very first reading I ever had. I remember, you know, Chief saying that, you know, you don't have to make it so complex. You know, start simple and just build from that point. And that was really helpful for me, because when I kind of look at it, when I look back now and I look over the last couple of years, you know, I see like that progress and I see that growth. And I also see how there are times where, and we can talk about this a little bit later, I can see where there are times where my growth and my development was kind of blocked. A lot of times by things that I was doing myself. But, you know, what I would say the biggest realization or change that's come to me from this is that I'm able to be more aware of what's happening around me,
mm-hmm.
and just see more of the angles and the options, and I'm hearing a little bit of a echo.
An echo? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Okay, I don't hear it anymore. So, yeah. So I would just say that just to kind of wrap it up for me, just the work that I've done and seeing it work, seeing examples where, I was involved in doing rituals to have things, not to have things, but to see things more clearly, and then to see those things more clearly, and then to take ownership of the decisions that come after you have that awareness, which is the critical thing. I think that this is not something that somebody else can do for you. You have to do the work yourself, and I think that when you do that, that's when you really see the changes.
Right. Definitely, those first readings can be overwhelming.
Off of what Brother Charles just said, the biggest thing that he said for me too was just knowledge itself. And for me, it helped me out in a way that I can't give what I don't have. And I would try to help other people. But at the same time, if I don't have the information, if I haven't tested the information, if I haven't gone through it and walked through it myself, and what I'm giving you, it really is hollow, or the information I'm trying to convey. So, in this world, it's almost like you start looking at this a war on your mind. And if you don't have your own thoughts, if you don't have your own direction, well, then kind of what Chief always says, somebody will assign you one. That's right. And as I entered in the class, it's almost like it started opening my mind, like start taking an inventory of what have you been doing your whole life, and then ask yourself the question, how has that been working out for you? Mm-hmm. And if it's been leading you in a direction that hasn't been producing any results, well, it might be time to go a different direction. So then it just started begging the question of why do I want to chase after women so much? Why do I want to get so much money? Why do I want to do this? Is that what I really want? Which sometimes I say yes, but that's neither here nor there. Sometimes it's like you can't. It's a culture that you've invested in that tells you go after this, but you really are not producing anything that is new, any new thoughts, any new ideas. You're not bringing anything of nutritional value to the table. You're just doing what everybody else has done. And then this is why then you sit and complain, and you bring up this victim's mentality of, this, the top 1% is always just us down here and nobody cares about us. Well, it's time that you start caring about yourself, invest in yourself, and another thing invest in things that will be around as long as you are. I think that was one thing that stood out, what Chief told me. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like anything that's not eternal is eternally worthless. So therefore now, and it's one thing that he said in the class as well, that anything that can be perceived by the five senses is not real, which took me a little while to grab that concept. But then when you start to really, really let it digest, then you understand the magnitude of what that really means, and then you start to make different choices in your life. Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting that you both said something, and it's so funny because that's what I wanted to talk about this on the show today. I saw a clip of an interview that Kanye West did recently, and it was really, really inspiring. At least it was for me. Something he said, he was talking about pretty much what you said, Zach, is defining yourself. And he was explaining that he said he is a god. And he was like, in this society, we kind of have this thing where if you define yourself, you're kind of looked at like you're crazy. And, he said, someone would ask, who does he think he is? And he was like, I just told you who I am. I'm a god. And then he said, would it be better if I said I was a thug or I was a gangster or something like that? Does that fit me better? And he was like, no. He said, I am a god. That's what I am. You can't wrap your head around it because you're seeing me as, a slave. I have my slave owner's last name or something. But he was like, I define myself. And in these past shows that Chief's done for the month, that's pretty much kind of what it boils down to when we talk about success and progress. It's defining yourself. Because like he says, if you don't choose a culture, one will be chosen for you. And anytime you are working, or I guess existing in someone else's culture, you're working on their plan. You're not working on your plan. You're working to build up someone else's plan. So, and again, to piggyback off what Brother Charles was saying, when you get that first reading, it can be really overwhelming to hear, you know, all the stuff that maybe you should be doing, or what should, you know, the plans that you should be working towards. But like you said, if you just take a little bit at a time, and I think he spoke on that on another show, was that it's not about necessarily reaching the end of the goal. It's just make sure that you're making the necessary steps working towards it. And maybe, you know, the next generation will pick up where you left off. And so, you know, that was just, you know, I'm glad you all brought that up. And I was going to ask you, you know, as men who have, Brother Charles, who have families, and Zach, how has it been? What are like, what do you think are some of the stumbling blocks of trying to, you know, say, put your foot down and say, no, this is what we're going to do now? Like, how did your families react when you start putting down these certain protocols and you're like, nope, this is how it's going to be. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, so I'll start with that. And I appreciate and agree with everything that you were saying. And it's interesting when you start with the point with culture, and it takes me back to the very first show of the year where Chief was talking about a lot about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in her study of like the system of what is called racism, white supremacy, you know, I always remember one of the things that she talked about was that every single day, as soon as you turn on the TV, read the newspaper, walk outside, have a conversation, you're immersed back into that system. Mm-hmm. And so keeping yourself disconnected from that or fighting against that means that you have to be perpetually vigilant about what you're doing. And I think that at the macrocosm level, that's what you're doing. But when you're talking about at the microcosm level of the family, the same kind of thing plays out. Because if you have a family of individuals living together, you know, y'all are a family, but at the start of the day, people go to different places. Your kids go to school, you know, you go to work, your wife goes to work. And once that happens, all of you are immersed then back into the dominant culture.
Right.
Which is one that oftentimes is not going to reinforce the ideas and the values of what you were trying to build in your home. So, you know, I think that the challenge for anyone who's considered the leader of their home is to really model the behaviors and the things that you want to see happen within that household. And for me, one of the things that actually helped with that was going through the first Anu spiritual training phase 1, because there are exercises in there that you do in your house, that you create things that are going to be present in your house. Mm-hmm. And there are things that the other members of your family have to take note of. And, you know, I remember this thing that Chief said once about the idea of like you being the head of the snake. So if you're the head of the snake, you move, the head moves, eventually the body and the tail will follow. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that I've seen happen, you know, incrementally within my own family. I remember, you know, when I got into this, you know, I got into this on my own, but I'm also married, I have a child. And so, you know, I've watched my wife's sort of journey of understanding what I'm doing, and then also understanding sort of what that means for her, what that means for what she's learned, and then also comparing that then to the relatively blank slate of my child, who because of that is, you know, full speed ahead on everything. So, for example, if I get up when I get up in the morning and I do like or read prayers, my daughter does them with me because she likes sees daddy doing it, so she wants to do it too. Mm-hmm. So it's like you see like the part of establishing culture is really, you know, I think about establishing a consistency of your actions and behaviors and doing those things that are actually setting a pathway for not only the stabilization of you and your family, but then also the furtherance of that. And then, you know, even going through the process of setting up an ancestor shrine, which for me was more than just setting up a space. It also gets you into having conversations then with your family about, well, who's Aunt such and such, and who was she married to, and who was he married to, and how many kids did he have? And so you go through that process, and then, you know, even trying to find the pictures. You know, my family isn't one where everybody took pictures of everything. So you got to like track this person down to get this picture, connecting with people on Facebook to get that picture. And one of the breakthrough moments in my family was when my wife actually came and gave me pictures to put on our ancestor shrine.
Wow.
And for me, that was like, wow, you know, because I know that she's kind of figuring this thing out based on what she's seeing me do. So if my actions are not consistent and clear, and if I'm not actually doing the work and doing these things, then you can't really expect people to follow you, because you're the best example of what you're talking about. You know, the question is, are you living what you talk about? It's one thing to say, you know, I'm this deep, you know, spiritual person or whatever the case may be, but the people that know you, that see you every day, would they reaffirm that that's the case based on your real actions and based on your character? So, you know, I'll just kind of stop there, but I'll say for me, what I found is, if you're going to establish a culture in your household, you have to be consistent.
Right.
And if you're consistent, and if you're continuing to do those things that you say that you're going to do, there's going to be, I think the first part of that is a realization of that, then comes a respect for that. And then I think once you get to the respect, then you get to a place where people can say, okay, I can follow along with this person because I see how this thing that they're doing is making a change in their life for the better.
Yeah. I think that's really important too, because, you know, a lot of times when we first get started, we're so excited about what we're learning that, you know, you want to become like a missionary. You want to run and tell everybody like, oh, you gotta, you know, you're supposed to be doing this and you're supposed to be doing this and what you're doing is wrong. But they're looking at you like, you're not even doing any of those things. What are you talking about? So you could just kind of, you know, you're not validating yourself by doing that. And so people just kind of look at you like, this is what you want for this month. Okay, it'll be something different next month, you know? Right. So yeah, I think that's
and
very
then how
important.
And then how often do people really respond positively to being told what they're not doing?
Right. Exactly. That's very important, especially children. But adults too put up a very strong resistance to change, because they'll be the first ones to say, now I remember you were, you know, they know your history, so they don't want to release you from that history. You know.
Right. And if I could just piggyback off of some of that, because I think a big part of it too, which I've come to find out, is unsolicited advice is usually bad advice. And so I stopped just trying to tell everybody, look, man, this is what you should be doing, you know, and just let them just see how I'm living my life. And then once they start saying, you know what, this brother ain't really living, you got all of these hard times and heartaches and up all night, and I see you going to sleep, you getting good solid 7-8 hours in, like what are you doing that is causing you to have, you know, some just worry-free, carefree, what is it that you're doing? And then, okay, let me show you. Because one thing that I've always heard Chief Ted say is, you judge a religion or spirituality by the way they treat other people. And once you start seeing that, well, then people they'll start making their own decisions, and then they'll just start being magnetized towards you and what you're doing. Right.
So how has it been for you, Zach? Like making some just solid decisions and saying, this is what I'm going to do from now on. Like, you know, don't look to me to be that dude or that guy anymore. This is how it is.
It's been, I'm going to come at it from a bit of a different angle than Brother Charles, because I don't have a family. I'm actually single.
Okay.
And one thing that it has actually cleared up for me, though, is just getting more direction for myself. And then once I have direction for myself, then now I can start to see how other pieces fit in the puzzle. So when I sit down and I'm having a conversation, now the conversation is not, you know, what's your name and what's your sign. It goes a little deeper, and then all of a sudden, it basically, some women say, you know, this feels like an interview. And at first I'm like, oh no, it's not an interview, we're just going. But then I started thinking, no, this is an interview.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, this is, and I've seen in myself more growth, because I used to be like, what's my top 3 things that I'm looking for? And sex was always in the top 3. But now as I'm growing, like it doesn't even have a place in there. So now, because now this is the direction that I'm going, this is the direction that the family is going. And at the end of the day, you got to bring more to the table than just, you know, your vash. I mean, what? Because I after that, it's like a toy. You can play with it, but after we put it down, what more are we going to? It's me and you. What we going to do? So it has just helped me clean up and stop taking a bunch of unnecessary hits, unnecessary, you know, hard times and heartaches because I'm in a position where I didn't know, or I didn't see that coming. No, now it's questions that get to the nitty gritty of let me see who you are. I'm gonna show you who I am, and then we can just clean this up. We can go different directions just from this table, or we can see what we can build from here. So, I mean, it makes it very easy because I've actually had, you know, one time where a woman just said, I can't do this. Perfect.
Right.
Great, because now
saved us both
me
some time.
I'm saving you time. Right. I hope you get what you're looking for, and we'll move on. So, I mean, that's just the angle that an approach that it has kind of helped me and clean up a whole lot of things in my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's real because I'm glad you all offer, you know, different perspectives. Because I was going to ask you, you know, what has been your experience? Do you find that a lot of women can't get with what you're saying, or, you know, is there a lot of resistance there? Or because, you know, women always say, you know, you can't find a good man and blah, blah, blah. You know, there are no men out there. Do you find that a lot of women just don't they don't like things to be that defined, or they're very resistant to what you're saying? Because we always say we want men to be honest with us, you know. That's what we say.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. What I have found is one extreme or the other. So one is this is the direction I'm going, this is what I'm doing, and it's almost a fear comes up because you fear automatically what you don't know. And if you've never been brought into some information and being like, hold up, this person is Illuminati, or, you know, you're doing this. And I'm very cool with that because I was the same way when I first was introduced. I'm like, no. Because my brother was and I'm like, nah, he's a little off. He's a little strange. Let him do his thing. And all of a sudden I started finding out that it was actually me that was a little off and a little strange. So, but it's something that I found I can't force on somebody. And then I have, on the other extreme, I can deal with some quote unquote conscious women, and then it's more of no, I'm gonna tell you this is how it's supposed to be done, and I'm, you know, this is the direction. Like, relax. Relax. I'm telling you this is what it is. Like, I'm not here to. I mean, this is not an argument. We're not. See, you do this, and we're not doing that. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know where you got the information or whatever it is, but we can have a conversation about it. But at the same time, no, you don't just come off as being so aggressive. I mean, chill out.
Wow. Okay, I see that we do have a lot of callers on the line. And just to remind you all, I know the past few shows that we've done, we haven't taken calls, but today we will take a call if you'd like to share or if you have any questions. We're not doing dream interpretations or anything like that. We're just kind of discussing some of the shows from the month. And if you have any questions for Brother Charles or Brother Zach, feel free to ask. The number is 347-945-7680, and just press the number 1. So right now, I don't think I see any hands up, so we'll continue the conversation. But before we go get back to it, I'm going to go to a couple of commercials and see if that'll give everybody some time to get their questions together. So we'll be right back.
The Alpha Omega Store is a family-owned and operated premier online store serving as your one-stop shop for all of your spiritual and self-development needs. At the Alpha Omega Store, we offer you hard-to-find spiritual and ritual supplies, books, DVDs, personal development services, monthly specials, international shipping, and more. From spiritual supplies to business products and services, our mission is to provide you with the tools that will put you on your road to success. Purchase your quality products and services today at alphaomegastore.com. Bring yourself to a place of spiritual and holistic balance with exclusive life design services at osirislife.com. At Osiris Life, we offer our members exclusive one-on-one instruction, including 3 monthly service level options to choose from, monthly spiritual consultations, monthly podcasts and videos, custom tailored development plans, spiritual work done on your behalf, life coaching and support, and working solutions with real results. Awaken to your personal greatness and purchase your membership package today at osirislife.com. And now, back to our segment.
Okay, welcome back to ChiefSpeaks. I'm Kim, one of your co-hosts, and today I am joined with Brother Charles and Brother Zach, who are also students of the Anu Spiritual Training. And today we're just kind of going over some things that Chief has discussed in previous shows this past month, and just giving some testimony and saying, giving some testimony on the fact that the direction that we get does actually work. You just have to implement it. And I wanted to share a quick little story just about defining your own culture. And sometimes we just make excuses as to why we can't do it. Yesterday I was out with some family, and we were just talking, and one of my family members was talking about an experience they had, I guess, at a nail shop. And she was talking about how, how they speak a completely different language, right in your face, and how she felt kind of like, like that's rude. You're not, we don't speak your language, like they have this secret code that they can share amongst each other. And she was like, I wish we had something like that. And I just turned, I was like, well, we do. There are like thousands of African languages, or make up your own. And she was like, yeah, but I don't know any of those languages. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get into the whole conversation, but I was just thinking, we have access to so much information now. You can learn another language if it's that important to you. So a lot of times, we say we want these things, we want all this freedom, and we want justice, and we think things are unfair. But a lot of the times we just don't really want to invest that much of ourselves into doing something new. We just like to complain about it a lot of times. So that was just one thing I wanted to share, because I thought it was interesting, how we don't really have our own language, so to speak. But we're in a time now where you can pick up any language if that's what you want to do. And again, it goes back to defining yourself, So
the piggyback off. Just real quick, to piggyback off of that a little bit too. It's almost like, and myself included, when you say we want, but then nobody wants to put the time, the energy, or the effort in to make it go a different direction. Mm-hmm. It's almost easier if we just go with whatever everybody else is doing, right, because that's what we're comfortable with. And this is what even Chief said about it, is our habits, our haberdashery, which is the clothing that we wear.
Right.
And sometimes you got to start seeing that the garments that you have on are no longer fit for the space that you're moving into. So if you're moving into a different direction, well, why don't you be the change that you want to see? Instead of waiting for somebody else to do it, you do it. And then people will start looking to you for validation instead of you looking to everybody else for validation. Again, I think I'm starting to sound like Malcolm X with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You quote Chief now.
Right.
Good night. I'm gonna pull back right now.
Yeah, because I'm glad you said that too, because I want everybody to understand that we are not Yuya-ites. And that's not what he's trying to create with the spiritual training. He's really trying to teach you to tap into your own greatness and tap into your own soul's purpose and do your own thing and have the courage to do that. We're not like mindless drones. He's not trying to bring up a group of followers, so to speak. And so that's another reason why I wanted you all on today, to let them know that there are men in the training that, take the training, but they put their own spin on it. It may not resemble exactly everything that Chief says, but a lot of the mindset, like he says on the book, is to get your African mind back. So it's to be able to develop and cultivate your own mind and your own culture, not necessarily his.
And the thing about that too is I talk to a lot of guys, and even then, I think that's a lot of time that what is holding us back is I think our ego gets in the way and saying, you know what, you're not the smartest person in the room. And then if somebody else has a little more information than you, it's okay to learn from this person. You don't have to have every answer. You don't need to say that I'm the one that came up with this and you got to step you got to build from your own self. Learn from other people. Learn from, if you even talk to him, learn from his mistakes so you don't make the same mistakes. And it's okay to say, this is where I got the information from. I don't have a problem with that because I know in myself that I'm going to produce some more information on top of that, but I'm going to use the block that he left. I'm going to step on that. So I can, again, that's what he talked about with success.
Right.
Is using that block, stepping on that, and then making a block. Because then now you got to ask yourself, what is the legacy that you're going to leave behind so people come behind you? Are you going to give them the same dead information that you got? And you know it wasn't working, or you going to use a stepping stone that somebody else left and then leave another step that somebody else can step on. So
yeah,
and the other part with that is that I think too, to really learn, you have to have a sense of humility, and I think that's a hard thing. Just as a part, once again, as a part of the culture that we're in. I mean, we live in a culture that really allows everyone to feel like an expert about something.
Right.
And even when you look at the way that social media operates, it allows you to put out your perspective and have it liked or appreciated in such a way that it can easily make you believe that what you're saying is fact or the truth, and it's a truth that cannot be overcome. And I think that's how that ego develops. That makes it hard for you to really submit to the fact, first of all, that you don't know everything. And then second of all, that you might be in the presence of somebody that does know more about a particular thing.
Right.
And that you would benefit somehow from listening. And I think that's a tricky thing in and of itself. And then, for people of African descent, we have so many other parts to that, because a lot of times we're not really taught that the person that is an expert in anything can look like us. So that makes it even harder.
Right.
That makes it
Make
even
it plain,
harder,
brother Charles.
to submit yourself to, someone else being an expert. So I mean, that's a tricky part, and I think those are the reasons why sometimes we remain so disconnected and so isolated. Sister Kim, I was listening to your story about people being able to talk a different language to each other. Part of that is that you learn a different language, and there's someone else who learns the language also, and then you all can talk together. So it's like, how do we create those communities where you can coalesce this group of individuals that are so much on the same path that they want to develop their own language to speak to each other in places like that? Because that language is a critical part of culture.
Yes.
But even learning it by yourself, if I learn, language X by myself, and I don't have anybody to talk it to, yeah, that's great. But I learned it, and then who am I going to speak that to? Then I have to find someone else who's either on a similar path, or I got to start teaching young people so that they learn it, so that maybe they can talk it to each other.
Yeah, I think that goes back to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that goes back to building families and establishing your own culture. Because, and it does, when we talk about language, it doesn't have to be something really complex. I know when I, recently, well, not recently, but for a while now, I've been, just paying attention to some of the words I say, instead of saying good morning, I say good dawning, or certain things. Just being aware of the language and kind of shaping and creating your own reality. So even when I say that to some people will stop me like, what do you mean? Some people catch it, some people don't, and then then it gets shared that way. And then, next thing I know, they'll say it back to me, so it's not a different language, so to speak. It's still English, but it does create, a little bubble between me and the person that I shared that information with. So I think, sometimes I think we make things a little more difficult than they have to be, but it's small steps, baby steps to make a little bit of progress. Yeah. I see, I don't mean to cut you guys off. There's a caller that's been on hold for a while, so I'm going to go to it and see what they have to say. 615, you're on with ChiefSpeaks. 615.
Good dawning, everyone.
Good dawning. Peace.
Greetings, brother. How y'all doing?
Great.
I'm good.
We all right.
That's good. Well, I was calling to say appreciate the show still.
Good.
The ones that you're doing now.
Thank you.
And for the two brothers that was the two brothers that's taking the course, I have two questions, if I could. When you did your life, when you realized your past life and your life path purpose, how did your life change? That's the first one. And the second one is, how did y'all cope when y'all was going through y'all phase of coming into consciousness and coming, and learning and growing and not really having nobody to discuss it with? Like, how did you pull back from talking to or conversating with or associating with the wrong people when you didn't have anyone to study with?
Yeah, those are good questions, brother. Let me jump in with the first one, the last one first, actually, about the coming into consciousness part. So, I was fortunate in my growing up that my family really tried to make sure that I had a positive Black identity, and so for me, there were conversations all the time about, just what it meant to be, a positive Black person, and examples of that, whether that was like a Malcolm X, or whether that was an Elijah Muhammad or a Dr. King, or whatever the case may be. So I kind of grew up with that, which helped me out. When I got to college, I felt like I really stepped into doing that research for myself. And like most people, it's like, I remember one time I read this book and it talked about this process, and the process was called the author of the book called it. The book was called Becoming a Black Male, or Being a Black Male, and the process was called Negrescence, and they called this is the process of becoming Black, and it basically took you through this thing where, when you become conscious, quote unquote conscious, it's like you have this realization of all the things that have been going on around you that you weren't aware of, and all the things that have happened to you and your people historically that you weren't aware of. And you go into this anger, this justifiable anger about it, and then you start trying to figure out, how do I make this different? How do I make this different for me? How do I make this different for my community and for the nation, and so on and so forth? And it was like, when I got into that mode of study, I found that really there weren't a lot of people to talk to about that. I was fortunate there was one or two friends, and one of them that actually became a mentor to me, who I could really kind of have those conversations with. But I will say that process of coming into consciousness, quote unquote, is not something that's only emboldened by talking to people who are also conscious. I think that you also learn a lot by talking to people, by talking to everybody, and seeing how people think about things. Because even the person that's quote unquote unconscious, they have a perspective that gives you insight into how they got to their thinking in their mind. And in some cases, you find that that's reflective of things that you thought. And even for, the job of the conscious person is to help the other person that's unconscious develop consciousness, but not to try to condemn them and not to marginalize them because, you didn't always have the information that you do now either. So, my encouragement would be to do your work, do your research, do your study, talk with those that share a similar perspective, but then sometimes too, just see what's going on. Like I think on the last show, Chief talked about the value of negativity and positivity. It's not all about, whatever is in the sunlight and the daytime. Sometimes you have to see what's in the nighttime too. And sometimes there's conversations that you have with people where they share perspectives that you've never thought about, but you can kind of get insight into how they think that way. And it actually will help you sometimes become more sure about your path, but it also sometimes helps you to figure out how to talk with people when they don't have that similar idea and ideology, especially when you're a person of African descent and that person is a person of African descent too, because then it's like, how do I deal with this person, like that, and how do I figure out a way to deal with them in whatever way is necessary at that time and moment. In terms of the life path part, I'll just say that for me, that's a continuing process. And I think for me, as I learn myself better, then I learn the path that I'm on better, and then I figure out where I'm going. So it's not like a destination for me. I'm just on this journey, and this journey is a deeper level of self-discovery into who I am. And that path is taking me on my life path and my life journey. And along that way, I'm doing things, interacting with people, and making changes that hopefully are making me a better person, and as a result, making the world a better place.
Good answer. There. Great answer.
And I think your two questions for me, I think they go hand in hand, because once you find and discover in the direction that you start going in, you'll start seeing that there's people that just are not going to be able to make the journey with you anymore, and that they were hindering you and holding you back from the direction that you're trying to go in. Because at the same time, they say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Well, you can't say, oh, these are just my friends and I hang around these people and they're on some lower vibrational stuff, and you're the one that you just say, oh yeah, I just do that because I hang with them. You're going to find out you're going to be alone. A lot of times for me, I'm by myself a lot of times, but even then when I go out, if I do hang around other people and they start sharing with me some stuff, I share with them some stuff. I don't know what I say might spark an interest in them or something, and they'll come back and they're like, oh yeah, what you said, brother, was pretty on point, man. Where did you get this information? And they start digging a little deeper into what you're into and what you're trying to do. And then you can share a little more like that. But at the same time, I've heard a lot of people say once you start knowing your purpose and walking in that direction, it's a lonely walk. So, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily would look for a lot of people to understand and even try to get them to understand what direction you're moving in. But once you get to where you feel like you want to be, they'll start asking you, how did you do it? That was a thing for me was, I've always had high blood pressure, and I used to take pills for the longest, right? And at the same time, so then I finally came to find out about this Dr. Africa, and it's not the conventional way that one would go about attacking the issue or attacking the problem, and people automatically are like, who is this dude? Why, what would he say that will work? You need to go to see a regular doctor that will want to take care of the issue. Well, now you just can't tell them this is what I'm doing. You just do it, and then all of a sudden now I don't have high blood pressure to go in this direction, and then people start asking me, well, how did you get rid of your hypertension? So, I mean, at first, people are going to look and like, you're crazy. This ain't going to work. I mean, a culture that tells you this is what you need to be into right here. But then once you actually start going in the direction and then you yield results, well, then they'll start asking you, and then you'll start gaining more associates that way.
Yeah. Thank you guys for sharing. Are you, this is to the caller, are you having issues with dealing with some of those, some of the things you mentioned? I know I wanted to say with Brother Charles, I think it kind of goes back to what he said earlier about humility. And if you can hear it in both, in Zach and Charles's voice, they're very, very humble brothers. I mean, very humble. And I think it goes back to, like he was saying, we were speaking on humility and being able to learn from other men. So I was going to ask the caller, is that something that you're finding difficult to deal with?
As far as humility or
either of the questions that you asked.
Oh, well, me, the problem I'm running into is, I guess, just most of it really is just character development, and I'm just an extremely curious person, and I know if, for example, I'm going to this egg bay, and I'm pretty sure I was completely out of line for saying this, but I was looking at the issue that's going on in Flint with that water, and I had contact one of my Moorish brothers. You know, one of my mentors. He's part of the Moorish Science Temple in Detroit, and he put me on with the Grand Cheek, and I asked, where can we send the water to, and he was like, well, y'all really need to be sending money, because the water is being intercepted by the fire department, and the fire department is rationing out to the people. So these people are pretty much getting 2 or 3 bottles of water a day. And he was like, well, we need tankers because they switched from the lake to the river, and the river water is dirty. So I'm like, the river water is contaminating the entire system. So like he said, you have to just, I'm the type of person where if I don't know something, I'll ask somebody who I think knows more than me. So I had asked some of the sisters in the area. I'm like, well, is there anything we can do with Oshun to help clean that river up? Because that river shouldn't be dirty like that anyway, to the point where these people are getting lead poison, to the point where kids are dying from it. Like today, we got 87 cases of lead poison and 10 cases of fatalities from it. So I'm like, is there anything that we can do as an egg base to start, get the wheels turned to help these people with water? Because that situation is really, really, really bad. It's really bad. So I was just like, what is something that we can do ourselves instead of just saying, well, they should do this, that. Be the change that you want to see. And to make a long story short, I got straight crickets. So I was like, well, was I out of line for even asking that? Because like the issue that I'm having is like, there really aren't very many men involved in it, and the women that are involved with it it just feels like it's a girls' club, and they want to look at the dances and libations, and let's look at homosexuality different, and let's respect women, and let's just keep it on the level of that. So I'm like, I'm the type of person where this is a powerful thing we're dealing with culturally. Let's use it to better those who don't really understand it. But let's just use the condition of black people in general with the knowledge that y'all have, because I don't have the knowledge that y'all have. So is there a way that I can help y'all help them? And it's just like when people hear stuff like that, they're like, oh, man, did y'all hear about this Bembe coming up? I'm like, okay, all right. It's stuff like that. It's like I have to study in silence. And when I have questions, I have to be careful who I ask them to, because either it'll get shut completely down, or someone will tell me, just don't. I shouldn't be asking those types of questions. So that's the issue that I'm going to get to.
Brother Charles, is that
90 seconds?
Okay, we're about to go into archives. Just a second. For those of you listening, we're about to go into archives, so we're going to wrap it up in just a minute. But I do want to give Brother Charles and Zach's response to the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, first of all, man, props to you for going to an environment like that and asking a question like that. And I would say that, you were led to be there too.
60 seconds.
Because maybe that in that environment, people do have to ask the question of what more can we do besides just this, just participating in that particular Bembe. And I think that's a valuable part of this. I mean, what you're talking about, that's the reason, that's one of the things that attracted me to, traditional African spiritual systems and Ifa in particular in general, is this idea of how can we take this and use this to make our situation and condition better.
So take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's why it's important that you ask that question. Sometimes, and this happens in probably all spiritual systems and religions, people can become so, spiritually concerned that there's no earthly good anymore.
10 seconds.
It's very easy for us to just get so involved in, I'm just going to do spiritual work, I'm just going to read these books, I'm just going to go to this church, that we get so disconnected from what's actually happening on a ground level, and we don't even think about how to change those situations. So, first of all, I want to say I commend you for even thinking that way. And I think that it's good to show up and ask those questions, because sometimes you just asking that question sparks the mind of somebody in there to think about it a little bit differently. Chances are there's somebody in that space that's thinking the same thing you were. They might not have had the courage to even ask that question. So I actually commend you for doing that. The second thing is that I think that that's a valid and legitimate question, which is like, how do, if we are doing these rituals to Oshun, and we know that Oshun is the spirit of water, how do we then use that to clean up water? And what's the practical application of that? And that's a good question to ask. And maybe that's part of your work and your study is to figure that out, to link those two things, to make that very spiritual and powerful component manifest itself in a real, tangible, three-dimensional world that we live in. So I think that that's good. And I would say don't, shy away from asking those types of questions, because they're important questions to ask.
Right.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Because, I'm sorry, what were you going to say, something?
I was just gonna say what I have found out. When I say everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change. Nobody wants to go out there and get their hands dirty. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to eat chicken, but nobody will go out there and kill the chicken to put it on the plate. Oh no, I'm not doing all of that. But yet you're hungry and you're starving. And I totally understand what you're saying, brother. But you're gonna have to just find out there's not many people that's going to have the same vision and the same eyes and the same want to that you do. So you're just going to, you pose it just like Brother Charles said, put it out there, it'll spark an idea for them, but don't be surprised if they don't come along.
Yeah. And then too, I was going to say, you have to realize too that sometimes people just aren't as passionate about certain things that you are, and they don't have to be. I think that's something that we kind of assume sometimes. I remember Chief saying something about that. Like, everybody's not going to be as passionate about certain things that you are. So to go back to what Brother Charles was saying, be the change you want to see. Maybe that's something that you're meant to find out for yourself. Or, maybe you should go to your shrine and communicate with your ancestors or what energies you work with and see if you can come up with a solution for it. A lot of times we can't always, just pose the question and go out and expect somebody else to have the bright idea, because like Chief has said once before, if the question came into your mind, it came to you for a reason. Like, maybe that didn't pop up in someone else's head. It came to your mind. So maybe that's your purpose, is to figure that out for yourself and then to act on it. We can't always expect everybody else to be as passionate about things and as soon as we say, oh, we should do this, to like jump on board. Maybe that's for you to do.
Okay, because they've been, the past couple of egg-bays, they just been roasting me because it's been really bad. Luckily I'm sick. I have a thick enough skin to take it, but it's just like you said, you have to be humble. So because the last discussion that we had about me was doing readings for myself with the Obi, and you would have thought that I was in a church and was worshiping the devil. Well, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know you could be communicating with a satellite, and what you do affects this egg bay, and I don't want him doing nothing that'll affect us. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do it a little bit different. I'm gonna ask what they think and ask if they can help me do the thing. Mm-hmm. And like she had said earlier, you have to stand on the block that someone else has said. So if I don't know something, I'm not gonna, because like you said, in society, if you become self-defining, that people have a problem with you. Mm-hmm. So I try to balance that. Okay, not gonna take it there. I'm gonna ask what you think first, and then I'm gonna see how I can potentially use your experience along with my vision to accomplish the goal. That's what I've been running into. Mm-hmm. The problem I've been running into.
I think too. Another problem is that sometimes we have to be aware of the environment that we're in. So it's like you from that question, you realize, or you should have, you can kind of take notice that you're in not like a hostile environment, but you're in an environment where those things are not welcome. So sometimes you may have to just extract yourself from it. You're like, okay, this environment is not welcome to change. And you have to realize that you came into someone else's home or someone else's house, mm-hmm. where rules and culture and laws are already established. So a lot of times you're going to have to conform to them or start your own or do your own thing. Sometimes, like I said, if you came to them, they didn't come to you. So when you come, it's just like when you visit someone else's house. Like if you don't like what we do in our house, then you can leave. So, if you come onto their territory with these ideas and things, and you see that they're not responsive or they don't want to do it or whatever, again, that's like another clue that maybe you need to step out on your own and do something, or study a little bit more and find some things out for yourself. I don't feel like constantly trying to beat them over the head with it, or just to constantly just agitate things in that elay or in that house is going to be productive.
Right, because you're going to wear yourself out trying to fight your own when you're trying to go out to the world and fight the outside enemy. It's just going to drain you. So, that's why you got to pick and choose your battles.
Right.
That was on the show last week. And know, is this a battle that you want to engage in? Or do you just find the truths and the commonalities that you do have and then build on that? Or if it's not serving any purpose for you anymore, then you, just like Sister Kim said, you might have to separate.
Right.
Yep. Sometimes you have to separate in order to elevate.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so Brother Charles or Zach, do you have any closing remarks? Thank you, caller, for calling in. We've come to the end of the show, so it's about to actually cut us off. So I'm going to go ahead and close.
So just real quick, I listened to last week's show about the barriers to success, and one of the things is that I think in this work, I think two of the barriers that I'll just say for myself that I face, and maybe it's something that's relevant to other people too as well, is one part is not really trying to compare yourself or your knowledge or understanding to other people's, and to find and to say, well, wow, this person knows all this, and dang, am I not that smart, or how come I don't understand this as much, or how come I'm not having these types of dreams, or how come I'm not having these kinds of experiences, and to really step away from that and to remember that this journey is your journey. It's your spiritual journey, and it's being guided by your Ori. And how that manifests itself is going to be different than someone else's. And to not be discouraged if you're not having, some of these other experiences, some other folks are. In the animation, there's some really dynamic and incredible people. And I've had conversations with them, and I'm like, wow, this person is amazing. And then sometimes you can look at it and say, well, wow, man, maybe I need to do more. How come I'm not having this kind of experience? But it doesn't always work that way. And, what works for one person and what moves another person along is not always going to move you along or move you along in the same way. So that's just one thing. The second thing is that I think it's critically important, and the last caller really expressed this, is this idea of getting together with like-minded people.
Right.
And I know one of the things that we've done here with some success is try to start, basically our new chapters and trying to get people together outside of, the social media networks to really kind of get together and to talk and to look at each other in the face and to have conversations, because that's an important thing too, because to Zach's point, this can be a very lonely journey,
right,
but there are some ways to make it a little bit less lonely. And one of those ways is to really connect with like-minded people who are on their journey and not judgmental of the path that you're taking. So, that's just the two things that I would say to that. And then, as always, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the phone with both of you and, the callers, and to share my experience at this point. So thank you.
Thank you for being here. Zach, do you have anything to close with? Any wise words?
Yeah, last thing. What Brother Charles was just saying, which he basically was talking to me, just enjoy the journey, because life is really not about the destination.
Right.
And as we all learned, once you get to your destination, that's basically, or you can say it's perfection, which perfection is there. And at the same time, the journey is you got to go through the hell of it to feel the heaven of it. And sometimes, especially myself, I don't want to go through the hell of it. You just want that instant gratification. I want to put this in the microwave and pop out 5-minute meal. Boom, I'm ready to eat. Or potpourri, open this book up and have the answer just jump right at me. And I mean, life is not all about life is about the process. And if you skip the steps of trying to get to where you want to be, well, then once you get where you want to be, it's not going to last very long. So just enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, enjoy the mistakes, enjoy sometimes the falling down. And I'm really talking to myself, and but just make sure you're falling forward. Yeah, I mean, it's okay even if you need to take a break sometimes. Just don't regress. Just keep going. And if you need to sit, but then get up and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you'll see that once you may look over your shoulder, and a year from now you're a whole lot further than where you thought you could get. But again, that comes from, and then what Brother Charles said, don't get caught up in comparing yourself. Because then once you do that, for me, that was a hindrance for me, because then I didn't start doing what I wanted to do, because I started comparing myself to other speakers and other people who were doing what I was striving to do. And like, well, my chapter 1 doesn't look like the chapter 20, but they took the necessary steps to reach that point. So just enjoy the journey. And again, like Brother Charlie, it was a pleasure, and more importantly, an honor to share this platform and share my story. So thank you very much.
And I just want to say thank you to both of you for joining me this strong. And as usual, I see we got some late hand raisers on the line, but I want to go ahead and close and say thank you all for tuning in to Chief Speaks this strong, and we'll be back next strong with the regular format where Chief gives us the insight. And the last Sunday of February, we'll do another live show. So if you have any questions or anything, see if you can hold them until the end of the month of February. And another thing, I want to encourage you all to go to saduluhouse.com/events to register for February's monthly webinar on spiritual cleansing. So with that, thank you. Enjoy your day, and we'll be back next strong with Chief Speaks. So, as I said, peace. We are in archives right now, but I'm going to go ahead and see. I'm going to take this last call since they came in a little late. If you guys want to answer, you guys feel like taking one? Okay.
Yeah.
856, you're on with Chief Speaks. 856. 856. You're on.
Don't get quiet now. 856.
Right. 856. Okay, I guess they hung up. All right, so that's it. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be back next strong. Peace.
All right, peace.